going on, everybody? Welcome to December 31st, 2024. And I'm going to do something I haven't done, I think, like ever. And that is a list of the top 10 movies of 2024 that I saw. Now, I have to kind of do a little bit of housekeeping ahead of time. I did not see as many movies this year as I thought I did. When looking through the list of all the films that came out in 2024, I realized there's a lot that I haven't seen. Especially in the course of this last week. I haven't seen Nosferatu. I haven't seen Sonic 3. I haven't seen Dune 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and a swath of other films. A lot of what I saw this year, and a lot of what's going to be in this list, are smaller films that I think were largely in some ways overlooked. Some of them. Not all of them, some of them. But before we dive in, I want to give an honorable mention to the least favorite movie of the year. I figured that we'll do the least favorite movie of the year, and that is I Saw the TV Glow. This is my least favorite film of the year, hands down. The reason why, and I get all the symbolism and I get all the messaging, from a story-based perspective, it's not great. A lot of people tend to overlook the story. They tend to overlook what went wrong with it. How it was all put together in order to really focus more on how it made him feel and the symbolism, which I guess I get given the context of the film. But from purely a story-based perspective, it just did not wow me. And it was the one movie of the year that every time somebody says, oh, it's one of my favorites, I just look at him like, okay, like, wow. All right. That says a lot, but anyway, that's just my take on it. Again, my list is going to differ. You guys may not like some of these, but that is what it is. Number 10 on my list of my favorite films of the year is War of the Rohirrim, the Lord of the Rings anime. Now, those who know me know I'm not an anime fan. However, this particular movie is one that I quite enjoyed. I actually went to the early preview screening of it the night that it opened. I was the only person in the theater. That actually, I think, made for a great experience. I love the story of of how Helm's Deep got its name. I liked the characters. I liked what it built up to, and I thought that it was really nice and how it kind of connected into the overall Lord of the Rings mythos. There's a lot of people that attack the movie for calling it like woke or DEI or whatever because it had a woman character as the lead, a character who was unnamed in the original story of Helm Hammerhand. But I liked the way that it told the story, and I liked that it was about obsession and that it was about trying to like find your place in the world and living in the shadow of your parents. And I felt that was a really good message and a really, really, really good way to kind of give us more of this particular world. And I loved going back, even if it was anime, and I loved Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power season 2. So, I like all that kind of stuff. I thought it was great. Number 9 this year for me is Inside Out 2 with a very special honor of Dream Productions. Inside Out was one of my favorite films of 2015. I didn't see Inside Out 2 until it came to Disney+. The movie was well worth the wait, well worth the hype. Continuing Riley's story of adolescence and, of course, everything that goes into being a teenager and going through puberty and all the new emotions, especially anxiety and all of those things. I really enjoyed the story. And the honorable mention of Dream Productions is a 4-episode show on Disney Plus that kind of continues after the events of Inside Out 2. It is effectively a movie they cut into 4 episodes. And you can look at that almost as being Inside Out 3. Either way, both of those utterly fantastic. I loved them. Totally will watch them anytime it's on. The other one, number 7 for me, or number 8, sorry, is The Wild Robot. This is one that when I first heard about it, I was like, okay, Lost Robot, Woods, DreamWorks. All right, should be pretty good. But then my daughter, when she was in kindergarten last year, brought home the Wild Robot book. They did this school-wide reading event. And so I sit there in bed and I would read them the story of Roz, my 2 daughters. And I was really excited to see the movie because I've been reading the book. The movie and the book are vastly different. I mean, vastly different. Like if you watch the trailer for the movie and you've read the book, you'll recognize like the first couple chapters. Other than that, it just totally kind of just does its own thing. But the way that they put together the movie, the story of Roz, trying to be a mom, trying to live amongst these creatures, was really well done. The voice acting was fantastic. Catherine O'Hara as the possum was great. Pedro Pascal as the fox was awesome as well. Mark Hamill as the bear. Matthew Berry as a very kind of like surly beaver, I thought was awesome. Great voice casting, great movie, visually stunning. I've watched it now at least 5-6 times with my kids. I love it. Number 7 for me is Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, you might have thought to yourself, this one should have been higher given my love, my propensity for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Never mind Wolverine and Deadpool. The movie is a blast. It's a great feel-good movie. This movie is absolutely 100% a feel-good movie. There's no two ways about it. It's also about, again, redemption, finding yourself, being true to who you are, finding your family, whether it's your chosen family or whatever. And coming to terms that you sometimes cannot change things, but then you also sometimes can. It's weird on that particular messaging front, but I love the cameos. I'm going to quote James Gunn on this. They weren't cameos. They were characters, albeit tiny, but they were definitely characters. And I really hope we do get to see more from that. I think that they crafted a very heartfelt movie and one that resonated with audiences a lot, which is one of the reasons why it crossed over the $1 billion mark. Not just because of Deadpool and Wolverine, but because of what the movie itself said. And that sentiment actually brings me to the next movie on my list, and that is My Old Ass. My Old Ass is one I saw on a whim. I went to a secret screening, didn't know what it was, saw that it was My Old Ass, was first kind of like, maybe I'll leave, but nah, I'll sit here and I'll watch it. And I gotta say, I absolutely loved this movie. The messaging of it is great. Maisie Stella meets her old ass, played by Aubrey Plaza, who isn't in the movie very much, but of course is Aubrey Plaza, so who doesn't love Aubrey Plaza? But it's really about like coming to terms with growing up, coming to terms with love and loss, and just kind of discovering who you are. And I think the messaging of the movie is phenomenal. I think the messaging of the movie is great. It made me laugh, maybe kind of tear up a little bit here and there, and it kind of made me realize, I'm 42. I'm on that back half of my life. There's more I want to accomplish, and I got to sit down and do it. And this movie kind of really kind of lit a fire under my ass in a number of ways. It's very good. This listing of films is kind of like not 100% in order, but this is firmly in the center, and it should be seen by everybody. Moving on, we're going to get into some horror. Late Night with the Devil. I loved this movie. It was just the way that they shot it, having it be this kind of old late night talk show situation going to hell. It's an Australian film, filmed by a couple of Australian guys, shot in Australia, with a mixture of television cameras and behind the scenes black and white 35 millimeter to kind of give us more of that, cinema verite aesthetic, I guess. But the overall story of like what obsession is with trying to keep going and trying to, be the best. And of course, inviting in all of this craziness. For me, one of the big things of this movie is the Michael Ironside narration in the beginning, the Bohemian Grove connection, which is, to me, one of the very first like conspiracy theory videos I remember watching on YouTube was actually Alex Jones. I think it was like called Dark Descent, where he snuck into the Bohemian Grove. And that kind of captured my imagination. In 2009 is when I saw it. And this movie kind of like tapped into that a little bit, which I thought was great. Never mind, the performances are wonderful. It just reminds me of old talk shows, which, I do enjoy old talk shows way more than I enjoy current talk shows. And the variety of it all. And then just the zaniness. And of course, like that bonkers ass ending, which, okay. The ending I thought was kind of like they needed to get to an ending. Wasn't my favorite thing about the movie, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I need to pick it up on 4K. Moving in again to number 4 here. In a Violent Nature. This one, I've seen this one pop up on a couple of worst of lists of the year. And I find it really funny because this movie is like such an interesting horror movie from the perspective of the killer as he goes through the woods trying to retrieve an item and just murking everybody along the way. The way that this movie is structured is that there are a couple times throughout the film where you get these lore dumps. And these lore dumps kind of give you the backstory of the killer, of the area. And it almost feels like this is the third movie in a trilogy. And I saw some people complaining about the ending of this movie. Like they didn't like how it switched perspectives, but that's always kind of how it's going to go. At the end of the day, you still have to have a final girl in horror, and they still have to largely survive. There could be a jump scare at the end. In this particular case, you're waiting for something to happen that doesn't, and that's okay because it keeps you kind of engaged in the moment. And I felt that intensity throughout the whole movie. Never mind the fact that I really liked the cinematography. I really enjoyed the ADR. I called this like an ADR horror film. ADR is additional dialogue recording. It's mostly just like the sound sweetening, the sound of the forest. The forest is a character in this movie. The sound of the crunching as the killer walks through the woods, the sound of people off in the distance, and it's not like you get this like very kind of lonely feeling as you're watching it from his perspective because he's just watching people. There's obviously the yoga kill. Everyone talks about the yoga kill. My favorite part about the yoga kill isn't the kill itself. It's the wide shot after the kill when he just pushes the body off the hillside and it just rolls down into the creek. I just really, really, really like that. There's another great shot where he goes into the water and there's a woman that's swimming. And then she's swimming by herself and then she just gets pulled under. And then she drowns and her body pops up. And it's just the way that it's shot from a distance. It allows you to just watch it. There's nothing you can do to stop it. You know what's going to happen. And it's just so well done. I found myself enthralled by the entire movie. And they're working on a sequel, which I don't feel that they need. But at the same time, I'm not against it. Now, moving into number 3 here, Rebel Moon, the director's cut. I know you're probably going, what the hell? That's a bit of a jump. I avoided the PG-13 versions of this that came out a year ago. And then last April, I told this to everybody, I'm waiting for the director's cut because I know Zack Snyder works well in the long form. And if you're going to watch a Zack Snyder movie, you should always watch the director's cut, never anything else, because it's just, you're not going to get the whole story. And we should know this by now. But anyway, Rebel Moon is 6 hours long. And I sat down the first night and I did like 4 hours. And then the second night I did the last 2 hours. But the next time I watch this, I'm probably going to do it all in one sitting. It flows, it moves, it's violent, it's gory. There's some moments in the movie, when they're kind of following along like the standard path of some of these films with maybe a little bit too much exposition in regards to character backstory. But at the same time, it's a slower moment in the movie leading into the craziness of the ending. I really enjoyed the cinematography. That barn scene was fucking intense. The opening of the movie was just super violent. And it was Zack Snyder's version of Star Wars. And that's something I wanted to see. And I was very, very, very pleasantly happy with it. Going into number 2 here, this one is one that I don't think a lot of you have seen or a lot of you have heard of. But it's absolutely my second favorite movie of the year. This is called Frogman. It's a point of view found footage pseudo documentary about a guy who, when he was a kid, was in a place called Loveland, Ohio, and he is filming, and he films the local urban legend Frogman. And later on in life, he hasn't really accomplished anything of merit, of meaning to him. He's kind of down on his luck. So he gets his friends, and he ends up taking them back to Loveland to find Frogman. And it's really a love story. And I really, really like the love story. And then it gets into some Lovecraftian stuff, and it's really good. And they're setting up a sequel, and I'm very excited to see this. This is one that was released initially, I believe, on Shudder or Screenbox. I forget which one. And then I saw it online, and then I found out that it was for sale at Walmart, and I went to my local Walmart and I bought a copy of it because I wanted to support it. Like, that's how good Frogman is. Bring on the sequel. Can't wait. Now, number 1, number 1 here, my favorite movie of the year is The Substance. This movie, it kind of like, you know what? I'm not going to like, there's a lot of themes of my favorite movies this year, right? If you look at like My Old Ass, it's about like, coming to terms with growing up and love and lost. Deadpool and Wolverine, about coming to terms with regret and accepting some things you can't change and becoming a better person as a result. Frogman is about like trying to, live your life, or to do something with your life. Inside Out 2 is about just the emotions we experience. The Wild Robot's about responsibility. I mean, you can kind of see a theme for like what I'm going for this year. And for me, these movies have really spoken to me in a lot of different ways. But The Substance, given the fact that like I've always wanted to be a filmmaker and I used to live in LA and it didn't work out and whatever. And then the story of Elizabeth Sparkle kind of hitting her peak and then dropping off, and for those of you who don't know, I used to have a YouTube channel with like 163,000 subscribers. It was my full-time gig. And then that kind of, that fell apart of my own stupidity. But, that whole being at the top to some extent of at least your life, and then having that kind of go away. And then the things you do to kind of bring it back, right? Or the things you want to do to kind of bring it back. And this movie is a great body horror film. It really keeps us held captive by the male gaze, especially with like Elizabeth Sparkle, and then with Margaret Qualley's character, and like just the way that it's shot, and it's sexy, but it's disgusting. Dennis Quaid gives the performance of the year as far as supporting cast. He's so grimy and disgusting and gross, and every time he's on screen, your skin crawls. He's so nasty. But the movie about doing anything to get back what you had, to not age, to not grow. It really is a critique on Hollywood. It's a critique on life in many ways, but we're looking at it through the lens of celebrity, and that is one of those angles of it that we just kind of have to remember, is very much like that. Anyway, I love The Substance. I loved all these movies on this list. There's a lot of movies that I just didn't see in 2024, movies I want to get to. Part of my goal for 2025 is to watch more and review more and talk about more. And I hope you guys like this list. What are your top 10 of the year? Please let me know. Thank you guys again for watching. Have yourself a great new year. See you in 2025, and peace out.